we'll deal with finding unknown angle measures. So this is all about angles and their relationships to one another. And then being able to find angles that we don't know, measurements of angles we don't know. Yes? Okay, here we go. Okay, so vocabulary and terminology is important because we name different angles by their relationship to one another.
Is it like acute and obtuse?
Well, I think they expect that you know acute and obtuse. What's an acute angle?
Smaller than 90 degrees.
Right, smaller than 90 degrees. What is an obtuse angle?
Obtuse is big.
Charlie? Shh. Obtuse?
Big. It's bigger than 90.
Bigger than 90, but less than 180. Obtuse is bigger than 90, less than 180. 180 degrees is a straight line, a straight angle. And then 90 degrees is straight up and down, right? Perpendicular to the line.
360, yes. A circle.
Yes. Okay. So those things you're kind of expected to know, and then these are the new ones. So adjacent angles. If two things are adjacent, it means they are touching. So adjacent angles touch one another. Okay? Charlie?
I don't think we have class.
Share a common side and have the same vertex. So what this looks like is, let's see if I can get a line here. Okay, you'll have something like this. Okay, there's one angle. And an adjacent angle would be something like this.
So 3 lines.
Yeah, so like here's one angle here. And this other angle is adjacent because they share a side, right? They both share this side.
I think we did some of this in 4th and 5th.
You might have. And they also have a common vertex, meaning all their line segments meet at the same point. So they are adjacent because they're right next to each other. Okay, angles that aren't adjacent would look something like this. Okay, here's our two little line segments, and then you might have something like over here. These are not adjacent because they're not touching. Okay, adjacent angles are touching. Okay, we name angles based on the points on the lines and based on their vertex. So if I was going to tell you, let's start with angle QJK. If we say angle QJK, can you all see that? Are you with me?
Yeah.
The vertex is always the middle letter of how we name the angle because it goes in that order, Q, J, K. We could also call it K, J, Q. It would be the same angle. Somebody with a hand, give me the name of an angle that is adjacent to angle QJK. Oliver? Good. Okay. He said angle PQ. PJQ. Always make the vertex the middle letter of your angle measure. Oh my gosh, my little pen isn't working. Oh my gosh. Sorry, this is gonna be bad times. Let's try this again. Angle PJQ are adjacent, right? Is there another angle that's adjacent to our red angle here? Finn, tell me.
LJK.
Okay, L.
Or KJL.
JK, right, or KJL. And we always put that little, it's kind of like a less than sign, but it means angle. KJL. That is also adjacent to our red angle QJK. All right, we good with adjacent angles? They touch one another.
Yeah.
Okay. Two angles are complementary if their measurements add to equal 90 degrees. Two angles are complementary if their measurements add to equal 90 degrees. So if you are told two angles are complementary, you know their total measurement together is 90 degrees. Here's our little diagram again. This is the same one. Remember that little red sort of half a square means 90 degrees. So what are two angles in this figure that are complementary? What are two angles in this figure that are complementary? Kellen. Very good. P, J, N. So angle P, J, N and angle N, J, M are complementary because when we add them together, they form that 90-degree angle. Yes.
Well, there's two. There are two 180. No, three 180-degree angles. So couldn't there be another?
Yes.
Oh.
Technically, there are more 90-degree angles here. So technically, I'm going to erase what I drew. Remember that we said all lines, straight lines, are 180 degrees. So let's look at this line. If we know, we can see that this is 90 degrees here. What do we know about angle PQJ? Or sorry, PJQ. I named it wrong. What do we know about angle PJQ? Caroline? It's what? If we know that whole flat line is 180, and we know that PJM is 90, what do we know about PJQ? It's another right angle. This also has to equal 90 because it has to total 180 degrees to be a straight line.
So it's QJ
Right?
and QJL, right?
Q, well, yeah. So, yes. I'm not going to go too far into it because, again, this, for some reason, gets super confusing. So I don't want to go too far, but yes, there are technically four right angles in this figure. All I want you to know is that PJN and NJM are complementary because if you add their sums, they would equal 90 degrees. Can we all see that? Okay. Okay, and then supplementary angles. So we have complementary, which add to equal 90. And supplementary angles are two angles that add to equal 180 degrees or that form a straight line. Okay, the way that I think about this is complementary starts with the C. It's closer to the beginning of the alphabet, so it's the smaller sum, right, to 90 degrees. Supplementary starts with an S. It's toward the end of the alphabet. They add to equal the larger angle of 180 degrees, a straight line. So complementary add to 90 to a right angle. Supplementary add to 180 degrees. They add to equal a straight line. So a straight line is 180 degrees. Let's go back to our little figure. Tell me two angles in this figure that are supplementary. Charlie. MJL. Hold on, let me find it. Okay, MJL. So we've got that angle. And what else? Yes. And angle QJL. Do you guys see that? Those two angles add to form one straight line, right? They're adjacent angles because they touch each other. They're also supplementary because they form a straight line when you add them together. Finn?
Did you just say MJQ?
MJQ. No, because you have to say two separate angles. MJQ would be one 180 degree angle, right? It would be just a straight line.
So would another one be PJQ and
Yep.
NJM?
PJQ
Yeah.
and MJP, right? Or
Is there an O?
MJL.
M.
But you're starting with M and then you're ending with M.
No,
So
N.
Well, not quite, because watch what would happen. Let me erase it. So you're saying PJQ,
Yeah.
right? And NJM, but what are we missing? Yeah. So what would it be?
PJQ and PJM.
Yeah. PJM. So the two right angles that would add to equal 180. Charlie.
How come there's not an O when it goes JKL?
That's a good question. I don't know why they didn't put an O. Maybe because it would look like a 0 or something. I don't know. Okay. Let's do one more definition, then we'll do some practice. Vertical angles are opposite angles, in quotes, formed by the intersection of two lines. So they're across from one another. So like if we have two intersecting lines, the vertical angles are the ones that are across from each other. So this angle and this angle are vertical angles. You see that?
Yeah.
There's also another set of vertical angles in this picture.
Oh.
Yep.
It's that yeah.
The top
The bottom.
and the bottom. Those are also vertical angles. Okay? So vertical angles are sort of opposite angles formed by two lines that cross one another. The other thing that we need to know is that vertical angles are equal. So vertical angles are congruent. So if you know the measure of one angle, its vertical counterpart is the same measurement. There are a lot of vertical angles in this figure. Name one for me. Name one. Caroline,
PL.
what's the middle of that?
PJL.
PJL is a straight angle. What's one angle and its vertical counterpart? Ben, give me one.
PJQ.
Okay.
And MJL.
And angle MJL, yes. Okay, let me just highlight those on our figure so we can see. He said PJQ, right? And then its vertical angle is MJL. Okay, those are sort of opposite angles. Finn, what else? Or question?
Can you unhighlight that? Like
The whole thing?
Yeah, because it's harder to see. I feel like. So, MJM and QJK.
Okay, let's look at that. MJ, yes. N. And then QJK. Those are also vertical angles. Perfect. Good. Nicholas, you got another one?
NJQ and MJK.
Yeah, NJQ.
Yes.
And MJK. Good. So lots of different vertical angles in this figure because we have a lot of different intersecting lines. Okay? Vertical angles are congruent, so they will be equal. If you know the measure of one, you'll know the measure of the other. It's the same. Charlie.
There be one angle that has 4 lines?
You mean like 4 things going out of it?
No, 4 lines. So
No. Angles are only formed by 2 lines. Like 2 line segments, I guess. They can have multiple line segments in it, but you can only name an angle with 2 line segments. Okay. Let's look at an example. So we've done quite a few of these. Here's a new little figure. So just look up at the board and follow along. Okay, we're going to use this figure and we're going to properly name a pair of angles that is adjacent. Name a pair of angles that is adjacent, meaning adjacent means that they are, Brady, next to each other, touching. Give me a pair of angles that are adjacent, Brady.
CBD and
Oops. CBD and FBA. Okay, let's look at those. CBD. So here's our first one. And FBA. Are those adjacent?
That's vertical.
That's correct. Those are vertical. Brady, tell me it again.
EBD and CBD.
Okay, good. EBD. Are those adjacent?
Yeah.
Yes. Very good.
ABC.
Because they share a side, right? They're touching each other along one side, one common side. Okay, let's do a set of complementary angles. Complementary angles add to equal how much?
90.
90 degrees. So what are two angles that are complementary? John?
EDC.
Okay, EDC. Hold on, let me get my... Okay, remember, when we name the angle, we go from the point to the vertex to the point. So what would that angle be, John? How would we name that angle?
B.
Nope, start with the E.
E.
Very good. E, B, D. And then what is a complementary angle to EBD? Finn?
BBC.
D, angle DBC. Would you guys agree that those are complementary angles?
Yeah.
Because they add to equal 90 degrees. All right, last one. Name a pair of angles that is supplementary, meaning they add to form what?
180.
180 degrees with a hand would be awesome. Two angles that add to form a straight line. Someone who I have not heard from. Noah.
EBC
E, B, C,
and FBC.
and F, B, E. Let's check it. E, B, C.
No, FBE.
Yeah. Is that right? E, B, C, and F, B, E. Yes, very good. Right? Those add to equal this straight 180 degree line going along here. Very good. Okay. A lot of these, there's more than one correct answer. So just make sure you name your angle correctly. Side, vertex, side. The vertex will always be in the middle. Okay? Nicholas, question? Okay, we're not quite there. This didn't ask for vertical. Or will it? Oh, please tell me a set of vertical angles.
ABC.
Okay.
FBD.
ABC and F. Oop, yikes. Wait, ABC and which one, Nicholas? B, D. So ABC and F, B, D. Very good. So this one and this one are two vertical angles. Very good. You are classifying the angle pair. So look at this 70 degrees and this X. How would you classify these angles? What would you say based on our definitions of different types of angles? What types of angles are these two? Natalie? They are vertical. Very good. They're vertical angles because they're opposite one another, formed by the intersection of two lines. What's the value of X based on what we know about vertical angles? What does X equal, Kellen?
70 degrees.
Good. X also equals 70 degrees because vertical angles are congruent. So if we know that this is 70 degrees, we know that the vertical angle across from it is also 70 degrees. Equal, the same. That's just what you use in geometry, congruent. Okay, let's talk about these two angles. How would you classify these two angles? Finn, what would you say?
Adjacent.
They are adjacent. That's good. They're adjacent. They touch, right? They are two angles that are right next to one another. What else, Kellen? They are also complementary because they add to equal 90 degrees, right? So there are two classifications. They're adjacent and they're complementary.
You just ignore the X plus 4.
No, because guess what it's going to ask next?
X plus 4 is 27.
It's going to ask us, what's the value of X? How would we find this mathematically? Don't just say I put it in my calculator. Ben, what would you do? How would you set this up as an equation to solve?
As an equation.
Yeah. How would you set it up as an equation?
90
Yes.
equals
Yes.
X plus 31.
Wait. You're close. You're close. You're right. We know that these two angles add to equal 90 degrees. That's the key. So 90 equals if we add these two angles. Caroline?
90 equals X plus Y plus 31.
Yes. It equals X plus 4 plus 31, right? If we add all of those values together, they must equal 90. Right? So then we're going to use just our rules of equations. X plus 35 equals 90. We'll subtract 35 from both sides. X equals 55. Okay, so practice putting this into an equation. This one, sometimes you can see it or kind of guess and check, but please get in the habit of using an equation because they won't always be this straightforward. Bridget.
Where's the 4 at?
I added them together.
Oh.
4 plus 31 equals 35. Good? All right, let's do another one. Classify this set of angles. Classify this set of angles. How would we call those? Brady? Adjacent. Oops. Okay, they're touching. What else? Aiden? Yes, they are supplementary.
Oh. Wait.
Because they add to equal
180.
180, a straight line. All right.
Are they complementary or no?
They are not complementary. They haven't told us that. It looks like each of them is 90 degrees, but they haven't told us that. We can't assume it. But we do know that they equal a straight line. Now, what do you think they're going to ask next? What's the value of X? Okay, how can we set up an equation to figure out X? What do we know? These are supplementary. Hazen, what would you do?
You do 90.
How big is the angle that these add to equal?
180. Oh, 100.
Yes. So 180 equals what, Hazen? How would I structure the rest?
X.
Yep.
Plus 4.
Write it just how it's written here. X plus
Plus
X
X plus 4.
minus 4. Because it's a minus 4 on there. You just add these two angles together. We add X minus 4, and those together, because they're supplementary, will equal 180. Yes.
Oh, did I say that?
Okay, don't tell me the answer. I gotta do all the steps. X plus X is what, you guys?
2x, yeah.
2X. X plus X is 2X minus 4. Okay, then I gotta follow my rules of equations. 184 equals 2X. And then to get X by itself, I do the inverse of multiplication, which is to divide by 2 on both sides. What's X equal?
92.
Good. 184 divided by 2 is 92. So use the fact that you know that they add to equal 180, or if they're complementary, they add to equal 90 to write an equation and then solve for X. Okay, here we go. We're looking for the measure of angle EAB, and it's going to give us a figure. And we have to find the measure. So let's first figure out EAB. So that's this angle right here. EAB. Now, as it's written, it's not super clear. It's not like, oh, it's just two angles and they're right, or it's two angles and they're straight. What do you think, Nicholas? How could we go about doing this?
We need to define what CAB is.
C?
Because EAB is equal to that.
EAB is equal to CAB.
Because it's 90 degrees. Well, it's 90 degrees.
Well, this is 90 degrees, right? What about, can we first figure out what x equals? If we figure out what x equals, that's going to help us figure out some of the other missing angles. Because we know, what do we know about 4x and 8x plus 12? Charlie?
Well, we can do 90 divided by 4, because that is a right angle, and it's 4 times x.
But we don't know anything about this, except for that 4x plus whatever that is, which we don't know. So we can't figure it out. What do we know, you guys? What can we use based on what we know?
So it's
Finn?
supplementary because it's a straight line.
Yes, do you guys see that? 4x plus 8x plus 12 will equal what? 180, right? Let's start with that. We can find what x equals because we know that if we add those two angles, 4x plus 8x plus 12, they have to equal 180 because they create a straight line, right? What's 4x plus 8x? 12x plus 12 equals 180. Now let's get x by itself. Start by subtracting 12 from both sides.
168.
So 12x equals, yes, 168. Divide both sides by 12. X equals 14, I think. Okay. Okay, from here, now we've got to kind of go back and plug in what we know. 4x is going to be how many degrees?
It's going to be 4 times 14, so that's
14 times 4. 4 times 56. So this is 56 degrees right here. And then our other angle is going to be 8 times 14. 8 times 4. 112 plus 12. So 124 degrees. Okay, what else do we know? Can we solve for this angle?
yeah.
Yeah, because we know
56, so it's going to be, and it's a right angle, so 34.
34, because we know that 90 minus that 56 will give us 34. Okay, now there's a lot going on here. I'm going to do a little bit of erasing so that we can see a little bit more clearly what we're looking at. Now, can we solve for EAB?
Yes.
We know that this is a straight line, right? We know that part of it is 34. How are we going to figure out this much? Nicholas?
180 minus 34.
Good, 180 minus 34. And that gives us 17, 16, 15, 146. 146 degrees. Okay. Number 1, it says find the measure of angle NJM. So let's first find where that angle is. So right here, NJM. All right. Well, we know it's 12x, but that's not going to help us. How are we going to figure out the actual measure of NJM? What do you think, John? Well, we know that not NJM isn't 90, but it's part of a 90-degree angle. It's adjacent, yeah.
It's adjacent.
It's adjacent. That's my guess.
Wait, he is?
How are we going to solve this, you guys? It's not super simple. It's going to be one that we have to kind of work backwards through. What do you think, Charlie?
Well, the other part of the 90-degree angle
Yes.
is also 6x
Okay.
degrees because it is a vertical angle. Yes, sure.
That's true. So do you guys see that? Let me change my color. 6x is this angle. this is vertical to 6x. Do you see that?
Mm-hmm.
Do you see how those are vertical angles? So what could we write in there for P, J, N? Ben?
6x.
Right. This is also 6x. What do we know about these two angles?
There's 90.
90. They're complementary. How would we set up an equation to solve for x? How would we set up an equation to solve for x? Finn?
180 equals 6x plus.
Wait, not 180. What are we adding to?
Oh, 90.
Yep.
90 equals 6x plus 12x.
Right. Do you guys see that? If we add those two angles together, they're complementary. They have to equal 90. So now we can solve. 90 equals 18x. So x equals, Nicholas, what is it? Is it 5?
Yes.
All right, 5 equals x. That's not what they asked us, though. What are we looking for?
For NJM.
NJM. So we have to do what? Finn?
So you're gonna have to do 12 times 5, which is 60, I think.
Very good. So the measure of NJM is 60 degrees. Okay? Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Yes.